I still remember the morning she found out she passed her final board exam. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just stood there in the kitchen, staring at her phone, her lips slightly parted like she was reading something sacred. Then she looked at me and said, "I did it." For 12 years, that sentence had been the center of our lives. I worked double shifts so she could study without worrying about rent. I sold my old Mustang to cover her last semester when her loan fell through. I learned how to cook halfway decent meals because she'd come home too tired to stand. When she wanted to quit in her second year, convinced she wasn't smart enough, I sat on the bathroom floor outside the door while she cried and reminded her who she was. We didn't have kids because she said med school wouldn't be fair to a child. I agreed. We postponed vacations, holidays, even funerals. Everything was after residency. Everything was temporary. That's what we told ourselves. The day she became Dr. Harris, I felt like I had crossed the finish line too. That night, she went out with her classmates to celebrate. I stayed home. Someone had to let the dog out and be there when she came back. Around midnight, she texted, "Don't wait up." At 9 a.m. the next morning, she handed me an envelope while I was pouring coffee. "I didn't want to ruin last night," she said. Come. Measured. Clinical. Inside were divorce papers. For a second, I honestly thought it was a joke. Some kind of stress-induced breakdown. I looked up at her, waiting for the punchline. It never came. "I've changed," she said. "I need something different. I need someone who understands the life I'm stepping into." I remember thinking how strange it was that she said stepping into, like the life we built was something she was wiping off her shoes. I didn't yell. I didn't beg. Maybe I should have. Maybe that's what she expected. But something inside me went very still. "When did you decide this?" I asked. She hesitated. "Not long. Just enough. A while ago." So she'd known. Through the exam prep. Through the congratulations. Through the hug in the kitchen. I signed the papers 2 weeks later. No dramatic fight. No broken plates. I moved into a one-bedroom apartment across town and took the dog. She kept the house. It made sense. Her name was finally the one that mattered. The first year after the divorce was quiet. Uncomfortably quiet. I built my identity around being her support system. Without that role, I wasn't sure who I was. Friends tried to convince me I'd been used. My brother called her a parasite. I didn't join in. It felt too easy. She posted photos online in her white coat, stethoscope around her neck, standing beside colleagues who all looked polished and ambitious. There was one guy who showed up often. Another doctor. Same hospital. Same tired eyes. I muted her account. In the second year, I started sleeping better. I joined a small gym near my apartment. Nothing dramatic. Just somewhere to go after work. I stopped introducing myself as my ex-wife's husband who put her through med school. I was just Mark again. I'd forgotten I used to have plans before we merged them all into hers. Around that time, I heard through a mutual friend that her new relationship had ended. Something about long hours. Competing schedules. Two people who both believed their calling mattered more. I didn't feel satisfaction. I expected to. Instead, I felt distance, like hearing about weather in another state. The third year came quietly. I ran into her at the grocery store on a Sunday afternoon. She looked the same at first glance. Composed. Put together. But when our eyes met, something flickered. Not regret exactly. Not pride either. "Hey," she said, adjusting the strap of her bag. "You look good." "So do you," I replied. And I meant it in the most neutral way possible. We stood there for a moment, two people who once built a life around flashcards and frozen dinners. "How's the hospital?" I asked. She gave a small laugh. "It's a lot. It's not what I thought it would be." There it was. The first crack in the marble. She told me about the pressure, the lawsuits she worried about, the debt that still lingered despite the salary. She said she sometimes missed when things were simpler. When someone was waiting up for her. I didn't remind her that I used to be that someone. "And you?" she asked. "Are you seeing anyone?" "I am," I said. Her eyes shifted just slightly. "She's a teacher," I added. We met at the gym. I didn't elaborate on how peaceful it felt to be with someone who didn't treat love like a stepping stone. How strange it was to be appreciated for simply being present. "That's great," she said, nodding. We said goodbye without promises to catch up. As I walked back to my car, I realized something that surprised me. The day she handed me those papers, I thought she was celebrating freedom. I thought I was losing everything we'd built. But 3 years later, standing in a parking lot with grocery bags in my hands, I understood something else. She didn't leave because she became a doctor. She left because she believed her new title required a new life. And I didn't lose a wife that day. I lost someone who thought my value expired the moment her dream began. 3 years later, I no longer wake up wondering what I could have done differently. I wake up beside someone who doesn't see me as a bridge to cross, but as a place to stay. And that difference changed everything.